Before we dive into this gripping tale, hit that subscribe button to join our storytelling community. I walked into the boardroom, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. The air was thick with tension, and all eyes were on me. My proposal, months in the making, was about to be unveiled. I'd poured my soul into this project, believing it could transform our company. The board members sat in their high-backed chairs, faces unreadable. My secretary, Claire, stood by the door, her expression cold. I adjusted my tie, took a deep breath, and began my presentation. The slides clicked through, each one a piece of my vision. I spoke with confidence, laying out the numbers and projections. Halfway through, I noticed Claire whispering to a junior exec. Her words were too soft to hear, but her smirk was unmistakable. I pushed forward, ignoring the knot in my stomach. The board's silence was deafening as I wrapped up. Then Claire's voice cut through, "You'll never succeed." The room froze. Her words hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. I felt my face flush, the heat creeping up my neck. Claire's tone was sharp, laced with disdain I hadn't noticed before. I stood there, gripping the edge of the podium, my mind racing. Why would she say that now, in front of everyone? The board members exchanged glances, their expressions shifting. I opened my mouth to respond, but no words came out. My carefully crafted speech felt like dust in my throat. Claire leaned back, arms crossed, her eyes daring me to falter. I'd trusted her for years. She'd been my right hand, my confidant. Had she always doubted me? I scanned the room, searching for an ally. The board's chairman, Mr. Grayson, leaned forward slightly. His piercing gaze locked onto Claire, not me. Something was about to shift. "Excuse me, Miss Claire," Grayson said, his voice low but commanding. The room snapped to attention at his tone. Claire's smirk faltered, just for a moment, before she recovered. "Would you care to repeat that for the board?" he pressed. I watched her squirm, her confidence cracking under his scrutiny. She stammered, trying to backtrack, but the damage was done. I felt a spark of hope ignite in my chest. Grayson turned to me, his eyes softening. "Continue, please," he said, nodding toward my presentation. I took a shaky breath, regaining my footing. The board's focus shifted back to me, their earlier skepticism fading. Claire's outburst had backfired, and I could feel the tide turning. I clicked to the next slide, my voice steadier now. This was my moment to reclaim control. As I spoke, I noticed the board members leaning in, their interest growing. My data was solid, my vision clear, and they were buying in. Claire's interruption had only strengthened my resolve. I outlined the risks, the rewards, and the long-term gains. Each point landed with precision, backed by months of research. I could see nods of approval from the senior members. Even Mrs. Lang, the toughest critic, scribbled notes furiously. Claire, meanwhile, stood frozen by the door, her face pale. I didn't gloat. There was no need. The board's support was palpable now, a silent rebuke to her words. I wrapped up my final points, feeling the room's energy shift in my favor. Grayson's faint smile told me everything I needed to know. I was winning them over, one fact at a time. When I finished, the room was silent for a heartbeat, then applause broke out. It wasn't loud, but it was genuine, a rare sound in this boardroom. I stood tall, my chest swelling with pride and relief. Grayson raised a hand, quieting the room. "Thank you," he said, his voice carrying weight. "This is bold, innovative, and well executed." I felt a rush of validation, my hard work finally recognized. Claire's face was a mask of shock, her earlier confidence shattered. The other board members chimed in, praising the plan's clarity. Even Lang, ever the skeptic, offered a curt nod. I glanced at Claire, who avoided my gaze entirely. The power dynamic had flipped in an instant. I'd turned her doubt into my triumph. The meeting wasn't over, but I'd already won. Grayson turned to Claire, his tone icy. Ms. Claire, your comment was unprofessional. Her eyes widened, but she said nothing, lips pressed tight. He continued, we value constructive input, not personal attacks. The other board members nodded in agreement, their faces stern. I stayed silent, letting the moment unfold. Claire's role as my secretary had always been secure, until now. I could see her calculating, trying to salvage her position. But the board's support for me was unshakable. They began discussing next steps for my proposal, ignoring her entirely. I felt a strange mix of vindication and pity. She'd underestimated me, and it had cost her. The discussion moved forward, my plan now the centerpiece. I was no longer just a presenter, I was a leader. As the meeting progressed, the board dove into logistics with enthusiasm. They debated timelines, budgets, and resource allocation. I answered their questions with precision, my confidence soaring. Claire stood silently, her presence fading into the background. I caught her glancing at the door, as if planning an escape. The board's unity behind me was a powerful statement. They weren't just approving my plan, they were endorsing me. I'd spent years climbing this corporate ladder, facing doubters at every step. Claire's jab had been a final test, and I'd passed. The discussion wrapped up with a vote, unanimous approval. My heart raced as Grayson shook my hand firmly. Well done, he said, his tone warm. Claire's whisper had ignited a fire, and I'd emerged stronger. After the vote, the board members gathered around me, offering congratulations. Their support felt like a shield against Claire's betrayal. I thanked each one, my voice steady despite the adrenaline. Lang even cracked a rare smile, saying, "This could change everything." I nodded, grateful for her words. Claire slipped out of the room, unnoticed by most. I let her go, her actions would have consequences later. For now, I focused on the victory at hand. My proposal was greenlit, and implementation would start immediately. The board trusted me to lead, and I wouldn't let them down. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, replaced by purpose. This was more than a win, it was a turning point. I'd proven myself, not just to them, but to me. As the room emptied, Grayson pulled me aside. "You handled that well," he said quietly. His approval meant more than I could express. It was rare and hard-earned. He glanced toward the door where Claire had exited. "She won't be an issue," he added, his tone final. I nodded, understanding the implication. Claire's days here were numbered. I felt a pang of regret. She'd been a good secretary once. But loyalty matters, and she'd crossed a line. Grayson clapped my shoulder, a rare gesture of camaraderie. "Lead this project well," he said. I promised I would, my resolve ironclad. The board's faith in me was a responsibility I'd carry proudly. I left the room, my steps lighter than when I'd entered. The future was mine to shape.
Back at my desk, I sat in silence, processing the whirlwind of the meeting. My proposal, once just a dream, was now reality. The board's support was a career-defining moment. It talked about Claire's words, "You will never succeed," and almost laughed. She'd been wrong, spectacularly so. Her doubt had only fueled my determination. I opened my laptop, already drafting next steps for the project. The company was about to change, and it was at the helm. I felt a surge of gratitude for the board's trust. They'd seen my potential when Claire entered. Her betrayal stung, but it no longer mattered. It was moving forward, unstoppable. The corporate world was brutal, but it used one a major battle. This was my team at Tocine. The next morning, I arrived at the office with a renewed sense of purpose. My inbox was flooded with emails from the board, each one outlining tasks for the project. I dove in, organizing teams and setting deadlines with precision. My colleagues noticed the change in me. Confidence radiated from every decision. Claire's desk, used outside my office, sat empty. I heard whispers I was on leave, pending a review. Her absence was a relief, but it didn't dwell on it. The project demanded my full attention, and it was ready. I met with department heads, aligning them with my vision. They responded with enthusiasm, eager to be part of something big. The board's backing gave me authority than ever before. I was no longer just a manager. I was a leader shaping the company's future. As days turned into weeks, the project gained momentum. My team worked tirelessly, turning my slides into reality. We hit milestones ahead of schedule, impressing even the skeptics. I kept the board updated, and the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Grayson, in particular, became a mentor, offering guidance during our weekly check-ins. He talked about Claire less and less. Her betrayal was a fading memory. But he hadn't forgotten her words. They did become a way motivated, pushing me to exceed expectations. My team respected me, and I made sure to lead with fairness. The office was with energy, a stark contrast to the tension of that meeting. Success was building, brick by brick. It was proving her wrong every single day. One afternoon, Lang stopped by my office, a rare occurrence. She sat down, her usual stern demeanor softened. "You've surprised me," she admitted, her tone almost warm. I thanked her, hiding my shock at the compliment. She shared insights from her decades in the industry, offering strategic advice. I listened intently, grateful for her support. As she left, she paused at the door. "Don't let anyone undermine you again," she said pointedly. I nodded, understanding her meaning. Claire's outburst had been a lesson for us all. I returned to my work, more determined than ever. The project was on track, and my reputation was soaring. I earned the board's trust, and I wouldn't squander it. This was my chance to leave a legacy. By the end of the first quarter, our results were undeniable. Sales were up, morale was high, and the board was thrilled. During a follow-up meeting, Grayson presented my team's progress to the executives. I stood beside him, stirring up the edge with confidence. The room applauded, louder than before. He caught sight of Claire's replacement, a young assistant named Mark. He was eager, loyal, and a stark contrast to his predecessor. He felt a twinge of gratitude for the fresh start. The board approved additional funding, a testament to their faith in me. As we wrapped up, Grayson pulled me aside again. "You're proving everyone wrong," he said with a grin. I smiled back, knowing exactly what I meant. My success was the ultimate rebuttal to Claire's doubt. Word of my project's success spread beyond the company. Industry blogs mentioned our innovation, and competitors took notice. I was invited to speak at a conference, a first for me. Standing on that stage, I shared our journey, leaving out Claire's betrayal. It didn't define me, my work did. The audience applauded, and I felt a rush of pride. Back at the office, my team celebrated our milestones with a small party. I toasted to their hard work, feeling like part of a family. Mark fit in seamlessly, his enthusiasm infectious. Claire was a distant memory now, her name rarely mentioned. I turned her negativity into fuel for my ascent. The corporate world was watching, and it was ready for the spotlight. As the project grew, so did my responsibilities. I was promoted to a senior leadership role, a surprise from Grayson. The announcement came during a company-wide meeting, met with chairs. I shook hands with colleagues, their respect evident in their smiles. My office was upgraded, with a view of the city skyline. I stood at the window, reflecting on the journey. Claire's words had once stung, but now they felt trivial. I built something bigger than her doubt, bigger than myself. The board's trust had been my foundation, and it delivered. I sat at my new desk, reviewing reports from my team. Each success was a testament to our collective effort. It was no longer the underdog. It was a force to be reckoned with. One evening, I received an email from Claire. It was brief, an apology for her actions. She claimed the stress had clouded her judgment. I read it wise, unsure how to feel. Her words had hit, but they also pushed me to prove her wrong. I didn't respond. Some things were better left in the past. Instead, I focused on the future. My team was preparing for phase 2 of the project, even more ambitious than the first. The work was fully V2S, and resources were plentiful. I felt a quiet confidence, knowing I earned my place. Claire's betrayal had been a catalyst, not a setback. I closed my laptop, ready to lead with even greater resolve. The company was thriving, and so was I. Months later, I walked into another board meeting, this time as a senior leader. The room felt different, no tension, just anticipation. I presented updates on Phase 2, my voice steady and assured. The board listened intently, asking insightful questions. I answered with ease, backed by data and experience. Grayson nodded approvingly, and Langevin smiled. Mark stood by the door, taking notice with a grin. The contrast to that fateful meeting was stark. I grown, not just in title but in presence. The board's trust was unwavering, and I felt it in every interaction. My project was no longer just a plan. It was a movement. Claire's whisper was a distant echo, drowned out by my success. As the meeting ended, the board members approached me with praise. They spoke of expansion, of taking my model to other branches. I listened, humbled but ready for the challenge. Grayson leaned, his eyes twinkling with pride. "You've changed the game," he said simply. I thanked him, feeling the weight of his words. My journey had been tough, but it had forged me into someone new. I left the boardroom, my steps purposeful. Mark handed me a coffee, joking about my rockstar status. He laughed, grateful for his light-hearted support. The company was on an upward trajectory, and it was leading the charge. Claire's doubt had been a spark, but it was the flame. That night, I sat in my office, the city light stretching out below. I talked about the past year, the doubt, the triumph, the growth. My project had transformed the company, and it had transformed myself. The board's support had been my anchor, their belief in me unwavering. You opened a drawer, pulling out my original proposal notice. They were scribbled with dreams I the onset thought impossible. Now, they were reality. I smiled, tucking them away. Claire's words had been a challenge, one I met head-on. I was no longer the person she doubted. I was a leader, a visionary, a winner. The corporate world had tested me, and it had come out on top. The future was bright, and it was ready. The second phase of the project launched with even greater success. Our innovations were now industry benchmarks. Competitors scrambled to catch up, but we were steps ahead. My team worked like a well-oiled machine, each member vital to our progress. I made sure to recognize their efforts, fostering a culture of trust. Board meetings became celebrations of our achievements. Grayson and Lang often deferred to me for strategic input. My voice carried weight, and you said it wisely. Mark proved to be an invaluable ally, his loyalty a stark contrast to Claire. I learned to surround myself with supporters, not doubters. The company's stock rose, and so did my reputation. It was no longer proving myself, it was setting the standard. At a company gala, it was honored with an award for leadership. The room erupted in applause as I took the stage. I spoke briefly, thanking my team and the board for their trust. I didn't mention Claire. Her role in my story was irrelevant now. The audience included industry leaders, eager to connect with me. I networked with confidence, my name now synonymous with success. Grayson introduced me to key stakeholders, his pride evident. "This is our visionary," he said, clapping my shoulder. I smiled, humbled by the recognition. My journey had been a climb, but the view from the top was worth it. The gala ended with a toast to our future. I raised my glass, ready for what lay ahead. Back at work, I focused on mentoring my team, sharing the lessons I learned. I wanted them to feel the same empowerment I found. We brainstormed new ideas, each one bolder than the last. The board approved our next big initiative, trusting my judgment completely. I thought back to that tense boardroom moment, Claire's words ringing in my ears. It felt like a lifetime ago. Her doubt had been a gift in disguise, pushing me to exceed my limits. Now, I led with empathy and strength, qualities forwarded in that crucible. My team respected me, and I respected them. Together, we were unstoppable. The company thrived, and so did my legacy. One morning, He received an invitation to join the board as a full member. The offer stand me. Grayson had pushed for it personally. He accepted, knowing it was the ultimate validation of my journey. My first board meeting as a member was surreal. He sat among giants, my voice now equal to theirs. We discussed strategy, acquisitions, and global expansion. My input shaped decisions, my vision guiding the company. Mark, now promoted to my assistant manager, beamed with pride. The boardroom was no longer a battlefield. It was my domain. Claire's whisper faded into oblivion, replaced by my influence. It turned her doubt into a stepping stone. The company's future was bright, and it was at its core. As the year progressed, our project set new industry records. Media outlets called me a rising star in the corporate world. I took it in stride, focusing on the work rather than the hype. My team launched a third phase, even more ambitious than before. We were redefining what was possible, and the board backed us fully. I often reflected on that pivotal meeting, marveling at how far it had come. Claire's betrayal had been a spark, but the board's support was the fuel. It built a legacy on their trust, and it was unsackable. Mark and I worked late, planning our next moves. The office hummed with purpose, a testament to our shared vision. It was exactly where it belonged. One quiet evening, I revisited my old proposal, now a company cornerstone. Its pages were worn, but its ideas were timeless. I smiled, thinking of the nervous presenter in the van. Claire's words have stung, but they also awakened something in me. I'd proven her wrong, not out of spite, but for myself. The board's fight had given me wins, and I deserved. Now, I mentored others, passing on that same belief. My team was my family, the company my home. We were building something extraordinary, together. I closed the proposal, my heart full. The past was a lesson, the present a triumph. The future? It was ours to shape. At the next board meeting, we unveiled a global expansion plan. My team's data and projections were flawless, earning unanimous approval. Grayson called it a new era for the company. He stood at the head of the table, leading the discussion with ease. The board trusted me implicitly. Their respect hard earned. Mark took notice, his admiration clear. He talked of Claire only briefly. Her absence was a footnote now. My focus was on the horizon, on the possibilities ahead. We were innovating, growing, and leading the industry. He felt a deep sense of purpose, rooted in that long ago moment. Her doubt had been my catalyst, but it was the architect of my success. The expansion launched successfully. We saw our brand now a global name. It traveled to new offices, meeting teams inspired by our vision. Everywhere it went, it carried the board's trust and my team's dedication. My story, once defined by Claire's whisper, was now one of triumph. Industry leaders sought my advice, and I shared it freely. I learned that success wasn't just about winning. It was about lifting others up. My mentorship program grew, empowering young professionals. The company thrived, its culture transformed by my leadership. It was no longer the underdog or the doubted. It was a trailblazer, shaping the future. And it all started with a whisper that turned into a roar. Years later, I sat in my corner office, reflecting on the journey. The company was a titan, and it was its driving force. My projects had reshaped the industry. My name synonymous with innovation. The board, now my peers, relied on my vision. Mark had grown into a leader, carrying forward my lessons. Claire's name was a distant memory, her betrayal a mere blip. It turned her doubt into my greatest asset. The board's support had been my foundation, their belief my strengths. I looked out at the city, my heart full. I faced the corporate crucible and emerged stronger. My legacy was secure, my future boundless. I succeeded, not just for me, but for everyone who believed in me. As I write this, I'm preparing for another board meeting, another chance to lead. My journey is far from over, but I'm ready for what's next. Claire's words, once a wound, are now a vase of honor. They pushed me to prove what I was capable of. The board's trust gave me the platform to shine. My team, my family, drives me every day. Together, we've built something extraordinary. The corporate world stuff, very well learned to thrive in it. To anyone facing doubt, let it fuel you, not stop you. It did, and look where I am now. This is my story, and it's only the beginning. The future is ours, and I'm ready to lead it. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories of